Hello, everyone. Thank you for your comments and for your questions. So today I'm going to talk about the subject of, is there such a thing as spiritual diet and lifestyle? For so many years, I've been observing people doing all kinds of crazy things in the name of spirituality. Unfortunately, we're so much indoctrinated by all kinds of religions and spiritual movements, or religious teachings and spiritual movements of the past, that we give them importance or consider them as authentic simply because they originated, say, before our birth. And this is quite a misconception. Most of the people fall prey to these kind of ideologies, philosophies, etc., simply because they're not awakened. And even if they're awakened as they believe that they are, they still fall for that. And it's the first sign that they are actually not awakened, because an awakened consciousness does not accept anything for belief. It questions everything. And so for those who think that they are spiritually awakened or experience awakening, they could be deluded. A lot of these symptoms that people propagate online as the symptoms of spiritual awakening, evolution, are the symptoms of usually different afflictions, problems with the biochemistry, the neurology of these human beings, occult afflictions and influences. But yet, if we want to really understand, I would like to, and of course, I'm not a person who tell anyone what to eat, what to do, what to believe in. I'm just here to share the perspective, because a lot of information about our history, about our origins, is also quite vague and most of the time not really accurate. And when someone is awakened, they receive information beyond books or someone else's talks. And so if we look at our life as original species of this type that we are at this point, and concerning our lifestyles and our diets, these lifestyles and diets were natural to our habitat. Say before the time of degradation, say before 7,000 years, we didn't live in organized communities which are controlled by spirituality, religion, or politics. We have not lived in any kind of social arrangements as we know of now. So again, it comes to the point of having a reference point. How would we know if we are born to a certain environment and conditions? How would we know otherwise? What can we know otherwise? So we accept, or every generation accepts, the more and more restriction as normality. And these conditions are propelling our diseased and degraded state. So how did we arrive to the situation of having disease, corruption, mental, emotional imbalances? And we arrived to this through conquest, through corruption of consciousness, obviously. So when we speak about diets and lifestyle, it is but the result of our conscious corruption, where we have been taken away from our natural free existence into some sort of an organized existence where everything is dictated, set into a particular system, which we accepted, of course, for normality. Yet it is questionable whether it is normal. And so the environmental limitations caused other type of limitations, caused the competition between different species or different even groups of human beings for their survival. So we were manipulating our habitats. We started using different subtle forces. So the corruption, in fact, occurred on a subtle level, but then it transpired into the physical realm, where even our physical environment started undergoing different alterations because of our conscious desire to manipulate. So we reached the point of manipulation of weather and climate and conditions where we offset our earth to such an imbalanced condition to the point where we started having certain areas habitable and other areas uninhabitable. And so at this point, we started going down the cycle, right? We started being more corrupt. We started fighting for the resources. And we ended up in this condition where our lifestyles and diets are absolutely unnatural. Our different groups, spiritual authorities that we've chosen for ourselves from the past 7,000 years decided to dictate us what is spiritual and what is not spiritual, what is acceptable for food consumption and what's not acceptable. Yet every year we're getting more codependent on chemicals, supplementation, our soils are depleted, our environments are polluted, our water is dead and doesn't nourish our cells, our foods are polluted. And then we find pride, or we become prideful about our diets and lifestyle, thinking foolishly that we are going to achieve something spiritually. We have reached the rock bottom. There's no spiritual growth. Diet has never been and will never be a standard for spiritual growth. Temporary diets, any kind of unnatural diet that has not been had by our ancestors, by their habitat, and the information that we carry, by the way, in our own cells, our genome dictates that. So whatever we have been eating or how we lived originally is the natural way to have a healthy body. But that's it, a healthy body. Our spirituality needs a healthy body, because when you are mentally, emotionally imbalanced, when your biochemistry yells that there is some imbalance because of whatever lifestyle or diet you have, when you have these kind of conditions like autoimmune diseases, different kind of diseases, you eat food that promotes the pathogenic flora, parasitic flora. That flora promotes your mental instability, emotional fluctuations, hormonal fluctuations. Your bodies are depleted. Your bodies are not exposed to the sunlight as they were originally. And you are not bathing in a pure water, that creates that electric current. You're not bathing in a stream, in a waterfall. You are bathing in a polluted water. You are not facing any natural conditions that human beings face originally. We were free. We were free to roam. We didn't need passports. We didn't need any kind of restrictions to go where we wanted for the sake of getting, what we wanted. At this point, we cannot even sit peacefully where we please because we have areas. So aren't we degrading even more? We have animal-like existence where you can sit here, but you can't sit there because it's someone else's territory. So when we started going into this territorial division, control, everyone was subjected to this organization. We were enslaved. Our cities, our villages were the first enslavement settlements where someone conquered us and assigned us, a pasture, an enclosure where we're supposed to sit. And then we were forced to have sedentary lifestyles, or lifestyles where we were forced to eat foods that we could produce or grow, because otherwise we would die, because we would not be able to go and get that food in the wild. And so because of all these conditions, our foods and diets started degrading. We started having more imbalances that were eventually called diseases. And these diseases were created because of the imbalanced habitat and imbalanced diets and lifestyles and conditions in general. Humans were bound to each other willingly or unwillingly because of this, because of the conquest. And so now, when these people were bound, those who conquered them gave them staple foods, grains, beans, please grow and poison yourself. But when you produce this kind of foods and eat this kind of foods, or a byproduct of these kind of foods, you poison yourself, and your lifespan gets shorter and shorter, because this type of foods promotes the unhealthy gut flora. And so we started accumulating more and more diseases. Then we started going back to the wild to get the solutions. Then we thought, wow, that must be, this plant is a remedy, and that plant is a remedy. But unfortunately, no one told you that plant-based medicines were not supposed to be a lifestyle or be taken forever, or they were supposed to bring balance to the imbalanced condition and not to be taken as supplements or long-term solutions. And because of this misconception, because of someone being healed through a plant, we assume that this plant is suitable for long-term consumption. And in fact, if this plant, say, have cured this condition, now when you consume this plant for a long time, in long term, it brings toxicity or more imbalance to the body. And you're back to square one. You're back to the disease state. But you never look at the diet. You look at the supplementation or the medicine. Okay, now I need to look for another plant, and so on and so forth. So now every plant, according to the ancient knowledge, every plant, whatever that is, whether you consume it on a daily basis or whether you consume it once in a while for medicinal purposes, is a portal to the subtle realm of this existence. So every time you consume a plant, it is a portal to a specific energy within the collective consciousness. And everything which we have in here on the physical realm is a reflection of what is in our consciousness. So certain waves within our consciousness are connected to our environments. And then also plants are connected to different, I would say, conscious clusters or different kind of energy frequency within the collective, within the subtle realm. So what that means is that every time you consume a plant, you are opening a portal. You're opening a portal to that cluster within the consciousness. And unfortunately, the majority of people on this planet do not understand plant medicine or what portals they open when they consume certain plants, or what kind of effect it brings. And many of these plants rot in our gut, they ferment in our gut, and they cause pathogenic flora to overgrow. That creates imbalance, biochemical imbalance, and it also creates an opening to negative energy, because negative energy is the one that strips us of life. And so we strip ourselves of life by foolishly thinking that certain plant-based diets, such as vegan or other, are healthy solutions, when in fact they're destroying you from within. You are never going to be in a spiritual sense evolved until the point where you have peace, contentment, and balance in your biochemistry. So the physical body has to be balanced and at peace. But if you imbalance yourself by opening portals from within to different forms of pathogenic parasitic energy on the subtle through the consumption of wrong foods or different kinds of toxic diets, or the combination of these elements together that produce an unfortunate result on your biochemistry, neurology, then you're become more and more preoccupied with your health and the stability of your physical vehicle, rather than you have time and capacity to really evolve spiritually. Spiritual evolution is but impossible when you are restless, when you are toxic from within, and yet you support yourself foolishly in the name of certain ideologies, religious movements, spiritual movements, and philosophies. There is no such a connection originally from the start between our diet and our spiritual evolution. The problem that we started connecting our diet to our health and peace is because we become degraded. We've become degraded and diseased. And so now we think, okay, there must be something that we're doing wrong, but yet we are not seeing it as a wholesome picture. We don't understand what's going on with us. And so we're just using the method of trial and error, but we don't have that much time, right? Because we're shortening our lifespan day by day, and yet thinking that our antibiotics, our chemicals and drugs will somewhat miraculously prolong our life. Your existence, the vegetable-like existence in the body can be prolonged, but the quality of life is not enhanced because we're getting more and more codependent on supplementation, on chemicals, on drugs for keeping us balanced. And this is getting to the unprecedented levels where we have this multi-billionaire industry of, health, pharmaceuticals, food supplements, veganism, and all these other type of diets, which are absolutely unnatural. People start resorting to also different chemical solutions for detoxification, which are absolutely harmful in the long run. Even if you need to undergo certain, let's say, purification, fasting, detox, it cannot be constant and long-term. We also forget that we've never, for the past 7,000 years, maybe we've been doing everything wrong, but originally we never needed to eat that often or snack or have any kinds of unnatural liquids in our bodies or juicing anything or creating fermentations, because all of that is the unfortunate result of our degradation of the settled lifestyle, where we were forced to focus on our diet rather than on other matters, which could be subtle matters or the matters of spiritual evolution and maybe other type of matters, knowledge, intelligence development. We think that we are intelligent because we created aircrafts and different gadgets, but unfortunately, it happened on the expense of our own existence. And we think that we are prolonging life by using different supplements and by researching biochemistry, by dividing everything into different multiple aspects. We lack the wholesome understanding of what longevity is. We are in a disease state. That's why we created the sciences of healing, but originally we didn't need it. It didn't need it because we ate in a different way. We lived in different conditions, and it is not normal for human beings to depend on any kind of medicine or supplementation, be it plant-based or be it anything chemical-based. We were supposed to receive everything from the sunlight. Now we're also poisoned by the false narrative that the sunlight is poisonous or harmful because it causes this and that. It doesn't cause, it invokes the disease outward, because all that disease which is hidden within the tissue with the exposure to the sunlight will come out. And unfortunately, then you say, oh, it's a melanoma, it's a cancer, but it's your own body tells you that that which is hidden, that disease, is now shown to you because you've reactivated your system while sitting in the sun. A lot of people have worsened condition when they start actually taking healthier diets because the body changes, everything reactivates. And what is a healthy diet is a big question. And I'm not going to talk about it today, but there is no such a thing as a spiritual diet, a spiritual lifestyle, because as we breathe, as we experience this life through senses, that is spiritual experience of this consciousness in the body. The experience of the body itself is a spiritual experience because you as a spirit, as a consciousness, and not the other way around. You as a consciousness experiencing this dimension through this human body. And unfortunately, because we got it all wrong, we lost our perception of our subtle essence because we focused on not essential things. And now these things are draining us because obviously we have pains. A pain is a sign of energetic depletion, is a sign of imbalance on mental and emotional and physical levels. And most of these imbalances are caused by our system, by the unnatural habitat, by the pollution, and by the type of diet we choose. None of the modern diets which exist in that kind of sense that we know it, all these religiously, spiritually promoted diets are absolutely unhealthy. If you look at the statistics of different, let's say, people who renunciate, who practice austerities severely, I'm not saying austerities are bad in a limited sense. And again, what is austerity? It has been always a norm for a natural human being to eat from time to time, not 3-4 times a day. So obviously the intermittent fasting, meaning like what people know as now, has been but a natural phenomenon, because when you have proper natural ancestral diet, when you are exposed to the sunlight, when your climate is warm enough, you are naturally kind of satiated just by being what you are. And so your consumption of food is reduced. So the most important is the quantity, the frequency, and what that is in terms of diet. So, and when we look at healthy diets, if they exist, I would say that most of the diets are unhealthy in their majority because they cause different deficiencies and imbalances. And from the start, we were at peace, so we could enjoy our life. And when you enjoy your existence in the body, and enjoyment would be just being peaceful and content, which the majority of modern human beings are devoid of. They don't have that privilege to enjoy peace. We have mental illness on the rise, we have anxiety on the rise, we have all these different issues on the rise because our gut system, our digestive system is damaged, inhibited. Our digestive system is irritated by whatever we eat, and yet we just choose not to look at it because we are blinded by our ideologies and belief systems, which lead us also nowhere. So most of the monks and nuns and people who practice austerities end up dying from kidney stones. And I'm speaking from experience because I've seen a lot of these kind of people. They end up their life supposedly living on a very healthy diet and very pious lifestyle, end up having kidney stones. Any form of deprivation in this world leads to imbalance. But again, it might be misinterpreted by many of the people because they think that whatever the life we know of shouldn't be limited or deprived. No, we have to return to the roots to understand what is actually limiting us. We think that deprivation means limiting the consumption of certain things that we like alcohol, like tobacco, like different kinds of stimulants, like different kinds of desserts and sugars. And then we create double standards. But unfortunately, all these things are not natural. So we are speaking about the natural habitat, natural diet. And in that kind of environment, there's no need to deprive because there's no biochemical imbalance that causes cravings and different kinds of abnormalities in our biochemistry, and that actually push us to kind of consider these things as, okay, this is a part of our lifestyle. I cannot deprive myself from this because if I deprive, it's imbalance. No, we're not talking about creating more imbalance in the imbalanced environment, right? We're talking about going back to the balance. And when you are in balance, there's no need to deprive yourself. The desire to deprive, the desire to limit, the desire to restrict was born from the unhealthy indulgence, from creating things that were the result of our dispersion, multiplication, our complication of life. That's why we have constant increase in the variety of different man-made foods, not fit for human consumption, chemically produced foods, processed foods. And so we think that the more variety we have, the more freedom we have. That's a false narrative of freedom, because freedom is not based on the multitude or dispersion. Freedom is based on wisdom and balance, because freedom is supposed to be balance, contentment. You cannot be free if you're not at peace, contentment, and really highly aware. If your biochemistry troubles you, if your neurology troubles you, you simply cannot focus on higher, subtler matters, because you will be drawn back to that area of pain, depletion, energy drain. And obviously, you cannot then perceive yourself as a free being, because now you are forced to be codependent on a solution. So we have a multi-billion or trillion business industry for solutions. All our life is just someone is trying to shove down your throat a solution. Unfortunately, this is a life of slavery, which has been created by conquest. The reasons and other things I'm not going to share in this video, but what I'm saying is that these topics are very deep. The point is that we have gone further and further and further away from the actual natural nutrition. Nutrition does not mean diet or restriction. Nutrition means having a lifestyle, or having such a lifestyle, having such a environment that nurtures your nutrition. Doesn't just include what you put into your mouth, but it is the overall nourishment, nurturing of your human being existence, which is multidimensional. Unfortunately, all we do is we're trying to nurture the physical substance, but we do not understand that Everything else does not nurture us. We are not nurtured from within. And partially also because of the corrupt diet, because it opens the portal to negative energy. It imbalances us biochemically. We have mood swings. We cannot enjoy just the sunlight. We cannot enjoy just the environment like trees and birds and everything. We are so focused on neutralizing that pain, on correcting that imbalance, but we don't have the science. We have trials and errors and trials and errors and no wholesome picture. We do not take consciousness in account. We do not know where thoughts and emotions originate. And so we speculate. We think that all we know of life is normality. Unfortunately, not even 90% of what we know of life at this point of time is normal. And the further we go with each generation, we are exposed to more and more and more corruption. So our spirituality is degrading to it. It has been degraded to the point of theory, the point of imagination, the point of drugs, stimulation, and just unhealthy diets, which are not backed up by anything but foolish, false ideologies, which are every ideology, every religion, every spirituality, as we know it in this form now, is a degraded version, is a remnant, is an unwholesome understanding of what life is. And that's why we are. And that's why we are the result of this unwholesomeness. You cannot pursue spirituality in a physically and biochemically, neurologically sick body. Sickness is imbalance. And disease is already a long-term state of depletion, energy loss, which leads to death, obviously. Because we don't know what the charge is. We emphasize the food, or we think that the food is the most important. It is important, but only to a degree. All other aspects of life, our interaction with the natural world, our exposure to the sunlight, our exposure to the living water, mineralized, the water that runs, gets that electric charge, that gets the charge from the earth, from minerals. That is something that we have to think of. We look at our biochemistry in a very limited sense too. Okay, you're deficient in this vitamin or in that mineral. Okay, if you supplement, it's not everything. Because as a system, we work only when several factors are activated at the same time. And these factors are our quality of air, the exposure to sunlight, the exposure to pure, clean water, not only for drinking, but for bathing, and then only the diet. And the question is, what is the healthy diet? Probably you have to explore it as a part of your own evolution. You have to experience different things to know and to understand. You have to contemplate, not take someone else's words for the truth. Someone says, this is the best diet. The other person says, that is the best diet. There are so many factors which define longevity, or in other words, the preservation of life or energy. And consciousness plays a vital role in it. Even when certain ancient wise men, yogis, siddhas, created certain medical systems, these systems were created simply because people have already been experiencing disease state, not to this degree as we are experiencing now, but to some degree. And so they created alternatives. They helped them to, remedy, to balance these states through the use of certain plants temporarily. It was not supposed to be their lifestyle, but their diets and lifestyles were already getting corrupt. That's why the original, this so-called, as we know the original, it's not the original, but the system of medicine that has been recorded in written form was originated. But it is not a reference point, because at this point, no one has a reference point, because no one has evolved to that degree, or at least got that information or connection to realize what has been originally. And what has been originally is definitely not what is now, and not what has been for the past 7,000 years at least. And so when we look at this whole situation, it should basically, this video is not to just, change your mind, it's to raise your awareness, question and contemplate, question and contemplate. Even when those wise men created different alchemical solutions, KayaKalpas, different kinds of, alchemical substances, it was only, again, for the balance and in order to bring the body to the healthy state, so you can actually contain spiritual knowledge of subtle nature. You can actually prepare your vessel for that knowledge, and that knowledge is in the form of vibration. That knowledge is not some theory or words. This knowledge is in the form of vibration, and your body has to have that capacity to absorb that level of radiation without falling asleep or in a dream state or becoming numb or dumb. But it is to create a vehicle that would have a capacity to contain high frequency radiation, so that you can contain this knowledge, and that knowledge can help you to come out of this realm, to ascend on a subtle level, to understand this dimension, but also ascend and liberate yourself from this dimension. Unfortunately, we forgot the way out, and we are living in a degraded state. All our spiritual thoughts, all our spiritual understanding are limited, incomplete, by far corrupt, and degraded. And it leads us nowhere, because everyone dies like a dog. Why? Because there is no balance in any aspect of our life. And if we today hear about this, we start being obsessed about this. If tomorrow we hear about that, we start obsessing about that. Yesterday we did sports, today we do yoga. There's nothing, everything has to be understood for what it is and what it is for. And has it actually been there from the start? The yoga that you know of is the byproduct of medieval times. It has nothing to do with the original existence. It's a degraded form, degraded to the point of exercise. Walk, exercise, go around, do something. It's all fine. Swim. No one says it's all bad. Any form of exercise is fine. But it originated because we already reached the degraded states then. It has nothing to do with spirituality. Spirituality starts with the awakened consciousness. When consciousness turns within and you start perceiving the actual self, and the self that is locked in this body, and then you start perceiving the processes that take place in this body, you start perceiving and understanding your biochemistry, your neurology, your connection with the subtle realm, your connection to thoughts, to emotions, to the collective, to you start unraveling kind of from within and expanding. That's what spiritual evolution is about. It's not about how you twist your body. You want to twist your body, twist, it's fine. It can activate your system. You want to still sit still, idly, fine. Everything is fine. And all these things were created to just bring your body into the balance in case it got imbalanced. It's not the point of evolution. It has nothing to do with spiritual awareness, because spiritual awareness, knowledge, are vibrations, higher frequency. Whether you contain them or able to contain them or not, it's it's questionable, because if your biochemistry is imbalanced, if your body is, in a depleted state, you will not respond to that, because your consciousness will be focused on the body, because it is natural to focus on the body in order to heal. It's our natural response. We should focus there where we feel pain, because pain is the indication of energy loss and depletion. Sometimes we are even born already into that painful condition, because our DNA got corrupt to the point where it couldn't produce healthy fetus to hold any kind of normal conscious, meaning normal original conscious vibrations. And you may experiment with different diets. You may think that they will bring you somewhere. They won't. You need to understand your habitat, natural habitat. You need to understand your genome. You need to understand, or at least contemplate, how would your ancestors live originally? What were they exposed to? And they were exposed to the sunlight. They were exposed to different frequency and energy. The climate and conditions were different. There were no fluctuations in weather patterns, which caused imbalance, obviously. And that's why we started trying to adjust to different imbalances. Anyways, thank you very much for your attention. I hope this raises someone's awareness and makes them understand maybe their own errors in life, in their lifestyle and diet. Maybe it will give you more incentive once you contemplate and kind of get rid of or let go of whatever you've learned. You cannot evolve if you hold on to some coarse ideas of the past just because they were 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago, that they were necessarily the resemblance of the original state they went. And so because of that, it's important to awaken to questioning, because without questioning, without self-observation, without this letting go of all that rubbish that we've learned through our systems of enslavement on all levels, we cannot liberate ourselves. We're but dreaming. They fed us with the systems of liberation so that we will forever be bound. True spirituality is the return to the natural being. A natural being means on all levels. It's a return to freedom, if not externally, that internally. And then recreating that freedom externally after hundreds and thousands of years. Because if we have discovered, if we have awakened and realized that inner freedom inside, we, with time, can replicate it externally, recreating, changing the systems, allowing ourselves to actually live without any system eventually. Because the natural world does not live in the mental and emotional restrictions or physical restrictions. The natural world originally was just a pure abundance. And if we want to return to that state of freedom, we are to become that freedom. We are to become that abundance. We are to become that spirituality in our every breath. And what is spirituality? It's intelligence, it's humility, it's natural existence, it's peace, it's contentment, it's bliss, it's just being. So if you can return and restore that, then you're on the right path, you're on the spiritual path. Your path doesn't need to be tagged or named. Your path doesn't need to have anything but a natural existence, disease-free existence. The existence where you appreciate every breath, every moment, every glance, every warmth, every ray of the sun. If you can exist like this, you are spiritual. All the rest is just the addition. It's the addition to correct the corrupt paths, the paths of disease, the paths of decay, and the path of spiritual degradation. All these build up are unnecessary. That's why with each year of our degradation, we built up higher and higher structures for spiritual worship, worship of something that we don't know of. When we forgot to worship life and existence through each breath in every moment, in peace, being authentic, being ourselves. And that's the main thing. May all of you be blessed, all of you who hear, be blessed to experience this and to restore a natural being in this body or in any other body, in this lifetime or any other lifetime. May you remember that whatever is natural is simple. Whatever is natural is potent and powerful. Whatever is natural is humble by default. Because it's intelligent, because it's permeating. Omnipresence and omnipotence is everywhere, and yet you don't see it. It's too humble to be seen, because it's too subtle to be grasped. Be blessed, be healed and protected. Protected from your own ignorance, protected from your own limitations and corruption, protected from any kind of aspects that cause you imbalances and diseases.